Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. I'm Richard Allen, and in this video, we're going to talk about the company that is going to 3D print the Terminators once Skynet takes over the entire planet. That's right, Nano Dimension just released a letter from the CEO, and it's a love letter to us. It's very exciting, so we're going to read it. I'm going to read it in my best impression of myself, because I initially thought, oh, you know what? I'll read it like it's a nature documentary, like David Attenborough would. I decided not to do that. If you guys want me to do that, let me know. I'll do it again. Maybe I'll release a video like a la Mr. Beast, like saying Nano Dimension like 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times, something like that. I joked around with my wife about that. Also decided against that. But look at the chart today. We're almost at $17 again, guys. We're almost at 52-week highs today. Nano Dimension is up 4.5%. This is really exciting stuff, and it's probably because of this letter to us. It's probably because the CEO is giving us hope. So let's just jump right into this article. It says, Nano Dimension CEO letter, love letter to shareholders. See, it says love right there. Love letter to shareholders. I'm just kidding, it doesn't. So it talks about early financial results. It talks about them having $3.5 million in revenue in 2020 and almost $1 billion in cash with zero debt. Zero debt. So here we go. On a preliminary basis, Nano Dimension reported unaudited revenue of approximately $3.4 million for the year ended December 31st, 2020, and approximately $990 million of cash reserves and no debt. As of January 31st, 2021, the above information reflects preliminary estimates with no respect to certain results of Nano Dimension for the year ended December 31st, 2020, based on currently available information, and they're going to go through their audit process as well. So here's where it gets good. The CEO has a couple statements for us, so let's just jump over this. Yoav Stern, president and CEO, remarked, as I have commented in our quarterly results conference calls since May 2020, as well as in presentations to dozens of new investors during the 8 capital raising transactions totaling $1 billion since May 2020, the CV-19 stuff affected the sales of our Dragonfly LDM systems in 2020. In fact, I stated publicly that revenue in 2020 could be close to zero. Therefore, I am pleased with our results. Our customers and prospects have been subjected to travel and capital expense restrictions, and we're going to talk about that in a second, as well as limitations on visits of our engineers for sales, installations, and support. Acquiring breakthrough technologies has not been a priority for buyers struggling with a tsunami event like CV-19. Now, I want to touch on this again, right? Capital expense restrictions. So, capital expenditure has gone to zero. Keep that in mind right now, right? And when you talk about capital expenditure, a machine that costs $250,000 to $400,000, that is a capital expense that most companies are saying, you know, I'm good. I'm going to wait out this tsunami, this storm, and then we'll decide whether or not we need these machines. Now, this has given Nano Dimension time to raise a lot of money, like a lot of money, almost $1 billion, right? To spend more on R&D, to spend more time researching what companies they're going to acquire. Remember, they're working with Needham & Co. that have offices right here in Minnesota. They're also working with Carl Square out of Europe that are looking at a bunch of different companies, and we'll get into that here in a second. They're looking at a bunch of different companies to acquire. So this is fantastic news, but you have to put into perspective. Yoav has been saying it over and over and over again. Our revenue will be virtually nothing this year, and a lot of people are up in arms about that. Like, how dare a company raise so much money again from institutions? They've raised $1 billion from institutions. How dare they raise so much money and have so little revenue to show for it? Well, I mean, I understand that sentiment. Yet it doesn't really make sense in this scenario because Nano Dimension has a ton of intellectual property and a ton of great tech, and they really are going to build these Terminators. No, I'm just kidding. I hope they don't. I hope they don't build Skynet and the Terminators. Let's move on to the next part here. It says, Mr. Stern added, I was positively surprised during H2, the second half of 2020, as our revenue was much higher than I expected, reflecting the following 5 upward trends. Number 1, a large number of upgrades of the older Dragonfly Pro into our next generation systems, the 24/7 Dragonfly LDM, which is indicative of the high level of customer satisfaction and their continued utilization of our machines. Approximately 70% of our Dragonfly Pro customers have upgraded their machines. So if you think about, if you think that how that will play out probably over the next few years, yeah, these are very expensive machines. Now, if Nano Dimension says, hey, look, we have a much faster machine that's much more efficient, that, yeah, you have to spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on, but it's going to save you a ton of time and a ton of money over the next few years, I guarantee you that some of these companies are going to say, yeah, I'll jump on the bandwagon, right? And they're talking about these new machines being introduced over the next year. So that's pretty exciting news as well. So let's jump right back into the article. Number 2, revenue boosted by our recurring revenue model, which includes the selling of dielectric and conductive materials, inks used by the Dragonfly LDM for 3D printing. Now, again, this company has a reoccurring revenue model, okay? This isn't just a set it and forget it type thing and, hey, you know, we sell you the machine and you leave us alone. No, this is a reoccurring sales and revenue model company as well. And these dielectric conductive inks are proprietary to Nano Dimension, so you've got to keep that in mind as well. All right, number 3, strong initial sales of our new Nano S Nano Services, or proof of concept prototyping printing of high performance electronic devices for prospective customers who may have purchased our systems, but who instead pays us for services as a result of the stagnation of their capital expenditures due to CV-19. Now, this is another source of income for Nano Dimension, their Nano S services, right? This is essentially, instead of a company saying, hey, you know, send us the machines, we'll print them ourselves, they send in a file, a CAD file, whatever it is, and then Nano Dimension prints these circuit boards for them, or whatever electronic devices they want, prints them for them and sends it to them. Now, it's still a very quick turnaround compared to others, right? So in this case, they have 3 places in the world that do this service: Florida, Israel, and Hong Kong. So they can service multiple sectors all over the world. So it's pretty exciting stuff there. Jump right back in here. Number 4, reoccurring revenues from customers with annual services and support agreements. Pretty straightforward there. Number 5 here, sales to Pacific Rim customers who recovered earlier from CV-19 and started to buy machines in November 2020. Dragonfly LDM was sold to an Academy of Engineering Physics, as well as 2 other customers in the APEC region. All right, let's see here. So Mr. Stern concludes, CV-19 is in full force in Europe and the US. Our working assumption is that once it phases out, we should experience a slingshot effect on sales as a result of the removal of restrictions on capital spending, supplier visits, and travel by our customers and prospects. In preparations for this stage, we have planned an aggressive go-to-market strategy supported by our cash reserves. Now, remember, because of all this crap going on in the world in 2020, they essentially said, look, we're not spending any money on sales and marketing, like 0, right? And now with like he's saying, with CV-19 phasing out hopefully soon, they're ready for a very aggressive go-to-market strategy using their cash that they have on hand. And who knows how much they're going to spend pushing these systems around the world, especially in the US and Europe. But I would anticipate some sort of acquisition that gives them some really good sales or software support. That's kind of what I'm hoping for here in the US or in Europe. And I think if they can do that, that'll really change the game for them, like really change the game. So cool story. So maybe not a cool story, I don't know, you might not like it, but let's say you do. So every time you sign up to do a webinar with Nano Dimension, one of their sales reps reaches out to them. The reason I say I hope they acquire a sales or software company or or a company with sales support is because it seems like their salespeople, I don't know, aren't really salespeople. I don't know, because when you sign up for a webinar, a salesperson reaches out, okay? And those outreaches, you know, they're not that great. Just to be fully upfront. And I come from a sales background, and I know what those outreaches could look like and how they could look. They could be a lot more effective. And I think they need some help in that space. But again, this is a brilliant engineering company. It's a brilliant 3D printing company. Do they have to have a great sales team? Yeah, not last year. They didn't. But they do going forward. They really do. So I'm hoping that they do something in that realm, whether it's internally or externally by finding another company. So that's my hope. So speaking of mergers and acquisitions, other 2020 milestones in M&A activity include the following. So here we go. Raised approximately $1 billion, accelerating our technology and product development timelines and our M&A strategy, both of which should fast-track our growth and market penetration in 2021. Engaged Needham & Co. to lead the U.S. M&A strategy. Engaged Carl Square from Germany in January for European M&A work. They've been working with Needham since June of 2020, so you guys know that. Profiled and scanned more than 80 potential acquisition targets across geographies and electronic industry segments, and contacted and studied a large part of them. Identified few synergistic candidates and complementary breakthrough technologies and or commercial complementary products and channel overlap, engaging some of them in purchase and or merger discussions. So they're already in talks with some of these companies. This could happen really quick, and I think that's why we see the price react favorably right now to this news. So, established offices in U.S. South Florida, which houses marketing, sales, customer service, and application engineering teams, and launched Nano S or Nano Services in Israel, Hong Kong, and the U.S. Guys, this is good stuff. I'm gonna link this down in the description so you can read over it as well if you want to. And again, Nano Dimension, we're up 3.24% today at 1656. Now, listen, I still stand by what I talked about in the last video. I still am concerned that the price of shares will drop after that meeting because they're, in my mind, I think they're going to continue to raise capital. I think, although I believe it's a good thing, right, for the long term of the company, in the short term, right? So most investors are pretty short-sighted, right? So when they see these direct offering come up, the share price tends to drop drastically, 10, 15, 20% sometimes before recovering, and that would be a good entry point for me to add Nano Dimension into a swing trading opportunity or potentially into my long-term portfolio along with like BNGO or something like that. So now I still think this could easily be, I don't know, guys, like a $30-40 billion company over the next 5 to 10 years. So I have all the faith in the world that this is still more than a 10x opportunity. I really think that, much more than a 10x opportunity, potentially 15x opportunity over the next 5 or 10 years. I think that's a conservative outlook if they are able to effectively do what they're setting out to do. If they can really capitalize on some of these patents, like of the smart fabric stuff we've talked about. If you're not familiar with that, go back and check out some of my older videos on Nano Dimension. I really like this company long term. Seriously, I really do. So let me know what you guys think. Are you excited about this letter? Let me know how you feel after you read it. If you took anything from it that I didn't. I pretty much read the whole thing to you. So I don't know if I missed anything. But yeah, maybe I did. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. Again, I'm Richard Allen. As always, if you didn't already do it, click that beautiful red subscribe button down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.